So, I mean, how kids often are. I'm sure I said, "Oh yeah, we'll be there Sunday." Oh, no doubt. Like we'll, yeah, that'll be great, Dad. We'll do that. And something more important like laundry or whatever came up, I'm sure. So we weren't able to make it, but Dad did persist, and he was certainly a big part in getting us here. And
about his faith. His faith.
Sure, his faith. Well, he believed in the Bible. He believed Jesus Christ was his Savior. And, he worked his whole life to better his understanding of that, his whole adult life to better his understanding of that, and help convey that to who he could, and strengthen not only himself but those around him through that. And I think knowing what that can give you, a faith like my father had, the strength that can give you, the support you can have, even if there's nobody there to support you. I'm sure it really ripped him up that his son didn't have that, and he wanted, more than anything to be able to give that. It was important.
I loved here we jokingly call Sunday morning, we call it milk and cookies, and then Sunday nights we call it Meat Lovers, and Meat Lovers is where we dig much more deeply in the Bible and explore things of our faith. And I just appreciated how Andy and Sharon were among the most consistent, always there for Meat Lovers, always looking for more, always wanting to develop his own faith. Thought that was cool. You remember that conversation in my office? This was really cool. I mean, I'm just kind of watching what's going on between father and son, and it tells me a lot about the father. It tells me a lot about the son, and I'll go ahead and say it. Joe had a dad I wish I had, frankly. Yeah, a little bit jealous, in a positive way, and I really appreciate it. But tell me about that conversation, because I was like, wow, it was really, I thought it was cool. Go ahead. What's that story?
This was the time where I was actually an adult and pulled into the principal's office by my dad. So it was interesting in a good way. It was there was a lot going on in my life. I was my dad used to say, times like that, he said, Joey, your soul is turned downward right now. I can look at you and I can just see that you're not open and you're not looking up and you're not, your life is reflecting that right now, and just how you feel and how you are and how you're acting. And I had a lot going on. I had a family. I had a beautiful wife. I had a beautiful house. I had what I thought, was a lot on the outside. But on the inside, I was getting eaten up by a lot of things. My lack of my ability to forgive, my wanting to really be able to grab whatever problem the world sent my way and wrestle it to the ground and say, you know what, I've got the ability to take care of this situation, and I'm not going to let it get the better of me. Well, in some ways, I think the Lord was looking down at me and saying, okay, well, handle this one then. Okay, tough guy. Here you go. How about we rip that away from you? And it was, it was with love. It was because I needed to learn to control what I could control, but put my faith in something bigger than me. And my father could see this going on in my life. And, I hated being shanghaied or grabbed or, I hated, well, let's go sit down and talk with somebody. I just, come on. So I forget exactly how he worked it, but it was...
You were shanghaied.
I was shanghaied. Somehow I ended up in that office, and all of a sudden Tim pops out of the woodwork, and they locked the door on me, and it was like, oh, here we go, you guys. And, there were a lot of tears in that talk and that meeting, and there was, my father just... sometimes you're a father, and you know what your kid needs to hear, I think, but you can't... It's not going to work from you. It's just not going to work. And I think my dad knew that day and was wise enough to bring in reinforcements.
I just loved how he saw you struggling. This is a father as a father ought to be. This is really what I want to convey here. And I loved how he pleaded with his son. And every dad in this room ought to have your dad. And he is a wonderful example of how to be a dad and never done parenting. And pleading with his son, there's a better way, with what Andy was trying to get across. And it was, we had this last week, it was 3 nights of, this is another cool thing. You heard of the generation gap thing? I didn't see any generation gap with Andy. And some of the pictures betray that. You can see that. We had 3 nights, Scott and Katie were all kinds of foolishness with the teenagers. And my grandson was there hanging out and having fun. And I just loved watching Andy. He was the judge. And Andy was participating with these teens in the foolish games and all this. And enjoying my last conversation with Andy was enjoying cheesecake. Maya had made some cheesecake, and we were here, and he was just, I was soaking wet, and Andy was the judge, so he was supposed to be impartial, but he leaned over and mentioned something about how much he wanted to get wet and have fun on that level, but he was the judge, so trying to be impartial. Andy and Sharon were actually on their way here for the 3rd night of the Teen Wars and the games and so forth. They were on their way here, active, involved, and when he had his heart attack. And what a wonderful.
He said he never stopped, watching out for us and taking care of us, and that's true in my case. But I know, also. He always had his arm around his daughter and was always looking out for her as well, in so many ways.
Yeah. Right. As a pastor, it's not my place to judge, and I don't go there. But I have to, it's my place to care, right? There's a difference between judging and care. So anytime I'm asked to do a funeral, I always wonder, where are they now? Where are they now? I'm grieving with the rest of us because I knew and loved Andy, but I take great comfort. It doesn't take away the grief. I grieve. But I get a lot of comfort knowing where Andy is. It's not a maybe so, hope so. There's no doubt about it. Yesterday, Andy's remains were there, and some of you came and you saw. It wasn't Andy. The last talk I did 24 hours before he passed away, we talked about, with the teens, we talked about our souls. And you have your body, you have your soul. And Andy left his body behind, but his soul. Talked with the kids. Your soul is the real you. That's who you really are. Your mind, your heart, your emotions, your thoughts. It's who you really are. And there is no doubt in my mind, Andy's soul is in the presence of God. Andy's doing just fine. Very much. We have no idea. Is. So we grieve, we should, but he's happy. Hope that you might know what that means to go to heaven.
Suppose it's like.